Yeah. This is always the cringe bit.
It's fine.
Okay.
Are we in frame?
It's gonna spin soon.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to MITO-SIS episode 6. This is 6. It says on my channel there's only 4, 5, and this will be 6. The rest got deleted yesterday, so you can't have access to them anymore. But today I'm here with the lovely
Janeesh.
Hi.
Hello. I'm a PhD student in my second year at Queen Mary, and I'm supervised by Professor Richard Nichols.
Yeah, so I know Janeesh because I do Bioinformatics, and she's one of my demonstrator teachers. Yeah, so I thought today we could just ask her some questions about what she's getting up to, you know, PhD questions and just like further education. So
yeah, I did my undergrad in 2018. So I did natural sciences at the University of Bath, and I did like in natural sciences you can kind of specify what modules you want to choose and make the degree your own. So I kind of selected biochemistry major, chemistry minor, and then like additional modules in like maths modeling.
Oh, nice.
And so it was quite a nice broad kind of a degree. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do after my A levels, and I was like, oh, that sounds like quite good. I love maths and love biology, so I decided on that. And then COVID happened, so I was like really confused as to like what to do afterwards, and also wet lab was not happening. So then I was forced to do computational work, and then that's where I realized I actually love computational work because it's not as stressful. And I feel like it's really easygoing. You kind of do whatever you want at whatever time. And then I realized I liked that work and applied for some masters, and then got into Queen Mary, and then I did the Bioinformatics masters, which you're doing now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when I was doing my Bioinformatics masters, I again kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go into industry straight away because I think I felt too young probably as well. Like I didn't feel like I was ready to have a proper career yet. And then I decided to go just apply for PhDs and see what I like. And then I just I think we had like emails going around for like different PhD programs. Like there's that drug discovery one, then there's like health and data practice kind of ones. And then mine was a specific project which was advertised by my supervisor. So they had funding and I applied for that project. And it was maths modeling with biology as well and bioinformatics.
Right.
So it kind of fit so well into what my background was. And so I applied, interviewed, got in, and then now I'm here in my second year.
It's such a long journey, and like what I was saying in the thing, like the prep for this, it's like you did everything back to back.
Yeah, so it was intense as well. So everyone, I think I get really people are like, oh my god, how did you do it back to back? Like, do you feel really tired, like stressed out already? Like, haven't you had so many years of education? And I feel like it has, since I've been like 3 years old, I've been in education, like I haven't stopped since then. And so it's been intense, but at the same time, I don't think I would have wanted it any other way because it feels like I think I'll just get bored, like if I have breaks in between. And I knew I didn't want to go into like industry or have to do like a 9-to-5 kind of job. And I knew I wanted to kind of do everything on my own terms. So I just feel like if I did go and have a break, I wouldn't have that same flow and mindset of going into academia and wanting to stay in that kind of studying mindset. I would go into more like a maybe money-driven mindset or more like a businessy mindset. Yeah. So yeah, I think for me it was a good decision. I know people, like a lot of people in my program as well, they've done like maybe like 1 year a job and they've been like, oh, now I want to do my PhD because they've had experience, or they like, I don't know, maybe they take a year out before they do the masters as well. But I think it's personal preference. Nothing wrong in either way.
I guess it's not as much as a problem because I guess if you've always been in education, it's all you would know.
Yeah.
And that structure's all you've kind of been around. So it's kind of easier to do that. Whereas people who are now like doing 9-to-5, they find it so tricky because it's like, oh, you used to be able to just get up whenever you want sort of thing. But,
and it's hard to switch, I think. So people who have been doing 9-to-5, if they realize, oh, I don't have that much structure in my life, they might be like, oh, how do I even manage and like be so disciplined to kind of make your own rules up for when you're supposed to do things. That's what I think I find the hardest. I was like, when I started my masters is okay because you still have lectures and seminars and things to attend. But I think when I started my PhD, I have to be so on it with deciding when I want to do something or when I want to have a meeting. Like I need to decide like I'm going to do this and this today, and I'm going to progress to this deadline. Like you have to set up your own deadlines, make sure you're really focusing on like, oh, I want this like chapter done. Like it's very self-driven and self-motivated. That's why they say like you have to be sure you want to do a PhD and make sure you have that passion to continue going, rather than just like saying, oh, I'm going to do this chapter and then I'm done. Like you have to continually do it for 3 years. Yeah.
So would you say, like, what's your average week like then? What would you say?
So
I guess it changes. What is your week meant to be like?
So I try to do like 9 to 5, kind of, so I can work at least during those hours and then do whatever I want in the evenings. But it doesn't happen like that because, like, I mean, you have your own commuting times and like everything like that. So I go into uni sometimes. So I go in like twice a week or 3 times maybe, depending on meetings and demonstratings. But I usually go in at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, I reach. And then I leave sometimes at like 7 p.m. kind of. Yeah, so I leave 7 p.m. because it's not rush hour then as well. So I hate rush hours.
That's why I leave at like 3.
Really? You're the early one, I'm the late one.
I go before, even though I like turned up at 12. I'm like, bye.
After 3 hours. No, but I leave after like 7-ish. Just because, rush hour is not then, and also it's just cheaper, I think, travel. But I do that, and so during the week, I usually have like meetings. So I go to like, I have lab meetings, I have like one-to-one meetings. There's like loads of seminars our department does as well, for like people who are doing PhDs, and you can like get to know what their projects are about. I attend some random maths seminars, maths lab meetings as well, so I get exposure into that. And then, I just usually just do my own work, stay in our office, and that's it really.
Like, nice. Like with the actual PhD itself though, so what are you currently doing with it? Like, just forget about the project. What do you do? So you're in for that many hours. Like, what are you actually
coding? So when I'm like in uni, I have, so if I have like right now I'm doing my first and my second chapter, I kind of decide like what I kind of want to target on a certain day. So usually I try and do half my week first chapter and half my week the second chapter, and then I try and maybe like if I have a deadline coming up, like I have a report due in 2 weeks or a week, I'm trying to like focus on trying to get main key points done for that. And I think it's really about what your supervisor and you discuss with what you have to do, and then deciding this is what like the questions I want to answer this week, and try and get some plots out or something, or like make some scripts. And then I think it just depends on like what you think is your next target or like aim in your chapter or your project you're doing.
So you code as well. So you're talking about chapters. I'm assuming that's literally just. See, if you don't know anything about PhD,
so I'll
what are you on
PhD.
about?
So a PhD in generally, like in so this is my PhD I'm going to talk about specifically. We have usually around 3 projects, so like 3, you can say like 3 master's projects kind of you're doing in your PhD. So, and it's oriented around like a certain topic. So mine's based around like malaria transmission modeling and using more Bayesian inference work, so more stats heavy, maths modeling, AI, machine learning type of work. And that's what it was like advertised as. And so my stuff orients around that. And then afterwards, when you're doing your PhD, your supervisor can kind of tell you, this is a topic of really super cool interest, you want to like look into it, and you can like then go into that. And it doesn't have to be super related to your main advertised topic, so it can divert. But it's your choice at the end because it's your own PhD. So my first chapter is very different to kind of what was advertised. So that's why when I started it, I was thinking like, when am I actually going to start malaria at all? And I kept trying to force the link between my first chapter and like malaria. And my supervisor was telling me you have to like relax. You can't try to force a link. Like you have to kind of see where it goes and go with the flow. So like now I'm doing, my first chapter is mostly based around like demographic inference actually.
And that's what I'm doing, by the way. That's
it's a bit different. I don't know if it's similar to what you're doing, but it's like so it's like there's loads of cool tools out there that look at like demography and population size changes. And the one I'm looking at looks at population size changes using like a single genome. So you can like take a sample, like for example me, and you put it in the software, and it looks at like how population has changed and tells you information about it. And it's really cool, but there's like problems with when you have population structure involved, so let's just say you have like a island model or something, we have like a structure model, and when there's like populations involved, it doesn't really give you the correct output, and it gives you like a false signal population size change, even though there's been no changes happening. And so I'm kind of looking at how we can distinguish between them both with like for example, if I have a bottleneck happening, that same signal is shown when you have such structured populations. So you could see a like bottleneck and be like, oh my god, population's died, but it actually hasn't. It's just population structure. So that's what my work is around. I'm looking at the framework of the tool. So it's quite like maths heavy and like reading through it, trying to figure out kind of how their code is working and what they've done, and providing like answers or like a way to kind of distinguish between them both. And so I've kind of done majority of the work. I'm just kind of fine tuning, cleaning everything up now. And like with research, there's always this thing of like, there's always something else you can do, like all the time. So whenever I've done something, I'm like, oh, but like I could look at this other paper that came out, which also did this, like this endless amounts. And I'm like, sometimes it becomes exhausting as well. You're like, when do I actually stop? And like you have to learn when to stop as well in research. Especially when you only have 3 years to do your 3 chapters that you have. So that's why I'm trying to clean it up and fine tune it. But at the same time, I don't want to let go of the project. I'm like, I know it now so well. And I'm like, I want to finish it properly if I'm going to do it. So that's why I'm still hanging on to my first chapter, even though I should have tried to make a paper out of it a while ago. But I think it always happens with every researcher though. So that's why I think when I'm doing it now as well, I'm trying to push in my second chapter and try and make my first one kind of pack up. So I think you experience that when you're doing your master's kind of project as well. You become really excited about like certain topics and ideas, and then not want to kind of let go of them as well at some points.
I found that more with like because I've only just started, since you guys don't know, I've only just started like my research project for my master's. But in my undergrad, I did something completely different. My undergrad, my dissertation was like embryology and things like that.
Really?
So like
completely different.
And
I think population genetics kind of work.
But it was all like, I did like stats with it, and I did like genetic analysis and stuff like that. So it was kind of, it's not similar, but if you're looking at genetics, it's the same thing. I guess. DNA is DNA, you know? But like, I forgot where I was going with this. But it was really hard to get into it because it was something I've never done before. And then when I got into it, I was like, okay. I'm into it.
At one point.
It clicks, and then you kind of just want to keep staying in that bubble where, you know, everything makes sense. You don't actually want to write anything about it. Like, it's fun reading it because you're like, okay, I read the paper, I'm understanding what's going on now. Oh, but now what? Like,
now I have to write it up and everything as well.
Now I've got to give my own spin, and you're like, oh god, do I actually have anything else to input?
I'm always so scared that when I'm doing research, somebody else has already done something out there. So I'm like, oh, am I actually making a good contribution to science, or like, am I just repeating somebody else's work?
Exactly.
And trying to read through literature and doing a review becomes so long. Like, there's a million papers out there for some topics. Like, how do you know when to stop? And it becomes hard.
Or like, I find, you know, it's even harder when there's no papers.
Really?
You know, so with mine, like my undergraduate, I was looking at PGTA, so pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidy. Mouthful. But my supervisor at the time, that was her specialism. Like, if you spoke to anyone in the industry of embryology, it's like her research.
That's really cool.
So when I found papers, it was just done by her. And those were the only ones I could find in the field. So like, I found it so tricky because it's like, you can't just use your supervisors as a reference for your whole paper, because that's like
you want to get
conflict
external
of interest, like but I couldn't find like anything else.
Really?
So
it's crazy. Because I think with my supervisor's quite broad. He does a lot of different things. So like, he just work on like his own works in grasshoppers. So then he has work in, like, one of my other friends does work in beetle invasions.
Oh, nice.
And then someone does work on like cousin marriages. Someone does work on trees. I do more like theoretical frameworky application type of work. So it's quite broad. So I don't think he knows, well, maybe he is really smart, but he knows a lot about a lot of different things, but it's not like he's the person who's making the tools. So it was more like it was really good because I had to research and network myself a lot with people and try and figure out those ideas and then talk to him about it and try and explain it to him. So that was quite good. So yeah, I think if I was in that small little bubble, it'd be really hard to kind of figure out what else is out there and who else can I go to about these things. Like it kind of feels quite, I don't know, you can't get a fresh opinion then out of it as well, isn't it?
I've got written down here, this was actually, but you kind of explained that.
It's okay, I can go in more detail.
It was kind of like, this was a question from one of the team. Oh my God, my mic. And it said like whether you knew you wanted to do a PhD in your undergraduate or it was because like something developed later on.
Yeah, so I think when I was growing up, like when I was a child and stuff, in the beginning, I never knew I wanted to go into research, I think.
Yeah.
Like I knew I loved science. I loved like anything to do with science, biology and things.
Yeah.
But I wanted to become a doctor, I think, in the beginning. Like I was like, oh, I want to go into medicine.
Like everyone has that route. Well, I wanted to be a forensic scientist.
Really?
And then I spoke to my teacher and she was like, you have to go to America for that. There's like not enough crime in the UK. Like apparently it's like a dying industry.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, carry on.
So yeah, I wanted to become a doctor, like a medical doctor in the beginning. And then, I don't know, I think as I went through like A-levels, GCSEs, I kind of realized I liked maths like a lot more than I thought. And my mum like put me in like tutoring and stuff. And I was like, I had to be good at maths by then as well.
Yeah.
So I realized I liked maths, but then I think everyone was applying for medicine at the time and they were like fully into like, oh, it's like medical exams are happening. You have to apply for UCAT. And
that was crazy because we've got like, I'm not sure if you're aware, wherever you're watching this from, but like here you have to have like amazing GCSE grades and do like medical like UCAT exams when you're like 17 to be a doctor when you're like 27.
Yeah, and I don't know what I was going to do when I was 17. Like, I don't know how people understand at 17, I'm going to become a doctor and you have to do that the rest of your life now. Like it's a hard profession. It's hard to get out of at the end of the day as well. So I did the UCAT and UCAS, the other exams that they had, but my heart was never into it. So, you know, when like, I wasn't really doing it fully, like I wasn't really passionate about, I think, the application process and everything. I just kind of was like, I want to focus on my A-levels. I enjoy my A-levels. I want to do them properly. And so then, of course, I didn't get into medicine. Then I applied to do natural sciences like afterwards. Then I think after that, I went with the flow with everything rather than trying to force myself to be like, oh, you should do this and this because like it's the right kind of way. Like I know people in school, like they were kept entertaining the idea of doing like medicine, dentistry, engineering or like becoming a lawyer. Like my school, I live in like a predominantly Indian area as well, so then like that's the kind of career idea that everyone thinks is like the ideal career. And so I don't know, I just never, those ideas floated around in my head, but I was like, I'm just going to go with whatever feels good and whatever I think makes sense at the time as well. And so I never knew I was going to do a PhD, I think, until like the masters probably. Then I was like, oh, I really actually do enjoy this and I want to be a person that is at the forefront of making science and actually like if I'm reading all these things, I want to be the person that makes those ideas and the topics. And I don't know, it made me very, very inspired and I can kind of see that there are loads of people out there that are doing these things and like why can't I be one of them as well?
Yeah, no, exactly. I find like the thing like the concept of PhD interesting and stuff like that. But it's because like for me, like I've always wanted to do like research. You know, people say, but what do you mean research? I'm like, just like finding stuff out.
Looking at things.
And I don't have like a specific niche and that's like, I guess that's what's difficult, you know, when you like apply for stuff. Because I did some applications, guys, didn't get them. But it's because like my heart wasn't like, the topics were so specific and I didn't know all about it because I was like, oh, let me just apply and see what happens. But like, I was not interested.
I think that's the most difficult thing because even right now, like you don't know everything about science. Like, even I don't know everything about everything. I don't know what topic I think would interest me the most. Like even currently, I've been attending some like we have like math seminars that happen in the like as a collaboration between like mathematical biology, environmental sciences, to like kind of get people together from maths, biology, and like geography kind of. And when I've been going to the seminars, I'm loving like cancer biology, maths modeling as well. Like I don't do that at all right now, but I'm like, this stuff is so interesting. And I think it just goes along with like when you're doing research, you find out your other interests where they lie in and you can, I think research is so great that you can even go into that even if you want afterwards. Like after I've done my PhD, like who used to say I can't do a postdoc in that area as well? Like I have the skill set, hopefully, but I don't like even though I don't have the background, you have the skills to kind of learn and be so like, as a researcher as well, you're quite agile. You can like fit into a lot of categories quite easily. So I think it's a very good industry to be in. And I'm not just saying it because I'm doing it myself, but it's a very good place to be in, just to kind of, if you don't know what you want to do, you have many options possible afterwards. Yeah.
Well, actually, okay, so we were just having a chat about random stuff, and then I thought, okay, this is actually useful. So, what you were looking for when you were looking for a PhD and how you found it, basically,
Yeah, so I'll kind of explain random PhD programs that are out there first. So there's like, you get these DTP programs, which are doctoral training programs, where you can apply for like a general like program, and then you have rotations where you can see what PhD like projects you like the most. So my friends are doing like, I think it's 2 rotations in one the first year, and then they choose from that what they enjoy the most, and they do that for the rest of the 3 years. And it's quite cool. They get more of like a choice to do what they want to do and try out their project before committing for the 3 years.
It's like them, you get like graduate internships, and they put you in like every department until you like pick one. Oh no, I'm actually a finance bro. Like
it's like that. It's like that, but you're actually getting paid like, and you're not getting taxed. Also, PhDs are not taxed; they pay for that. So it's quite. I mean, you're not getting paid that much anyway, but at least you're not getting taxed on it. And then, so yeah, those are you get those partnership kind of, I mean, the programs for those like doctoral trainings, and then you have ones that are specific projects. So that's what I'm doing, and they have like, I think your supervisor just kind of, if they get money by application of a grant, then they can apply for like, they have this like, they write up the project that they're interested in, and then they send it out and you can apply for it if you like or not. And so I think when I was applying for PhDs, I was looking for buzzwords because I didn't know at all what I wanted to do. Like I didn't know I wanted to go and look into malaria work or like frameworky type of things. And so I just kind of knew I liked maths modeling. I knew I liked coding from my master's. I knew I liked biology. And so I kind of stuck with those ideas. I didn't want to try and like put myself in like a very niche category because again, like you can't be interested in like a super specific thing and try and find a PhD in that really specific thing. And so when I was applying, I just looked for those. And when my supervisor emailed around that project, I knew that in general, I found this stuff really interesting. And it was quite, like the application was quite interesting as well. So I thought I might as well just go for it. So I think the most important thing is don't try and squeeze yourself into a category. Try and keep yourself a bit open as to what you could possibly do, and you might be surprised you'll enjoy it a lot more than you think. And discuss with the supervisor as well. Like I had a little meeting before with Richard about kind of what my background is just roughly and about his project and what the idea is, and if I found it interesting I just said tell me more, and then had my interview and things. So yeah.
Would you say there was any like red flags as such, like for companies or you can do PhDs at unis or you can do them at like businesses will pay for them to be like in an institute? Was there any red flags you saw with like things when applying, or if you read something you think okay that doesn't sound right? Or
so I did so my undergrad supervisor I had for my dissertation, she was like sending out emails about like PhD programs you can apply for as well, and there was one about maths modeling with like I did cell imaging work then. And so I was like, oh, this looks really cool. Like the 2 buzzwords that are like the good ones. And I applied for it. It was like it was like 8 projects, I think. And it was like 200 applicants or something. And so when I applied for it, the first day was like a random training day. And on Zoom, I could see everyone like suits. And they were like professionally dressed up. Everyone was asking questions whenever like they had a question. They were like all unmute, like 200 of them, be like, I want to say something. And it was literally like, I felt like I was gonna like, it was like a mission. It felt like I had to be seen or heard somehow. And so I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to be like in a very cozy environment, more like a comfortable place where I don't feel like competition or anything. Anyway, I was like, okay, fine, let me just try out the interview. I got to the next stage. I did the interview, and first of all, the university that, I'm not going to say the uni or anything, but they gave me an article which is 40 pages long. I only had a week to read it, and I was doing that group coursework then.
That's
And
what
so-
I had to do.
Really?
I'm not saying what uni, but they gave me the paper like 4 days before and the meeting time 4 days before. And I was like busy with other stuff, and I was like,
especially when you're starting off the group project, you're like really trying to figure out what's going on and like where you're going to go with like the project, how's the group and everything, and trying to blend in like just everything. And when I got that 40-page article, I wanted to cry. Like, it was heavy, and it wasn't even on anything I was interested in. Like, it was just a random topic they had. It was like, I don't know, 12, 13 pages of like actual like content, and then like the supplementary information was like the rest. And then when I had my interview, they were asking me questions. I was like, I've read it, but I don't really understand like the work that well. Like, it was all a wet lab work. And I was like, how do I really talk about this stuff when I'm not interested in it? And I was more reading about the bioinformatics. And then they were asking me questions about supplementary work, and they just kept making me feel really like dumb.
Yeah,
the way they were asking questions. And so I was just, I don't know, it just felt like it was more of a condescending kind of interview, saying that, oh, you don't really know what you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, because you've given me an article which is completely out of my field, and also not really related to any of the projects that have been advertised, which I mean is fair enough. They want to see kind of where we're going, like how we understand different topics and how we can read papers. But at the same time, I just felt like, why were they asking me a question about the supplementary information on like page 38 when I wouldn't have had time to look through all 40 pages in detail as well?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Like with that, and like just like interviews in general, like like forget about PhD ones, but like any interview you do, I always hate when they don't realise that you've got other places you're looking at as well. So as much as we're trying to sell ourselves, they need to sell themselves.
Yeah, and making us comfortable.
Yeah, like why would you go to work for a company if when you're in the interview you're so uncomfortable, you feel judged, all this, you just think that's what it's most of the time that's what it's gonna be like when you're actually in the team. Like it's just one of them things. Like I had an interview before for a big company, I won't name the name, but had me in the office, like I had to wait outside this place. They said they'll meet me there for the interview, and then we'll walk up to the office because it was in a separate bit. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm waiting there. I told another member of staff, like, I'm waiting for the interview. The woman finally comes down, you're late. I was like, no, I've been waiting down at the point you said to meet me for like 10 minutes. So I go up, she's being all rude. I'm like, okay, you're meant to be the manager. Like, you're meant to be the manager. And then she's like, oh, you're really fit for the job, all this stuff, like hyping me up. And I'm like, oh, how much is the pay? And she's like, oh, how much you on now? I'm like, well, I said how much I was on. And the pay was like half. And then after saying all that, she was like, yeah, I don't think you'll be a good fit for the job.
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah, because you realise I'm not going to accept the job anyway, because you're paying people below minimum wage.
Yeah. So they're rejecting you before you rejected them, really?
Well, yeah, because I was in the office and we were just talking, and then I was like, I felt so uncomfortable. Like, how are you going to be... Okay, I can tell how you treat your employees based off that.
Yeah.
And then, oh God.
Yeah.
How can you be rude to an interviewee? Like,
that's crazy, because that's just kind of it just tells you about the company's like work, kind of, and how they respect their employees and everything. And it's just, that's why I think it's so important to have a very good environment when you're doing a PhD or if you're working or anything, because that can just literally change how you review and how you like do your work and everything. And I think that was really important for me as well. Like when I applied, when I was in Bath, my university was a really good uni, and it's like really it's really good, but I think it was very intense. And especially the course I was doing was so intense. Like I was doing like biochem, chemistry and maths. Chemistry, I was doing organic and inorganic chemistry, which is completely different to like the biochemistry and cell biology I was doing. The maths I was doing was completely different as well, so nothing was linking up. And doing all those separately and like doing the labs for each of them, like it was getting too much. And I think I was doing like at least 35 hours a week, I think, of just that. And then I had my own societies, I was doing all that as well. And I was like, when am I going to actually have a life to just relax and not do any lab work and not have to worry about, oh, I had this assignment due or this coursework due. And so when I came to Queen Mary, I was like, this is quite, I love Queen Mary so much. It's actually it's one of the most chilled universities, I think, I've heard of for PhDs as well.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard other universities are quite intense and competitive in terms of projects, and like when you're even in the environment, they're quite competitive in terms of not telling you or helping you with like code or something, or like if you need something, they don't really support you that much.
Yeah.
And our uni is, I think, quite good at that. So we have like a little group chat of our 5th and 6th floor of our department, and everyone's so helpful. Like if you don't have a chemical, they'll be like, oh, here's a chemical, you can like have it from us, you can take a bit from us. And for like coding help, they're like, oh, we know this package out there if you want help from it. And like you can go to anyone's office and like ask for help and support. It's like a very community environment. And there's no like, I mean, obviously every PhD has like the people that are quite aggressive towards you with questions and things, but in general, I think it's very welcoming, very cozy, and that's what I wanted, and that's why I was like, I have to try and find in a place, otherwise I will not be able to survive, I think.
Yeah.
Where
did we cut off from? You were talking, we should have checked, but forget about that, we're moving on. So Janeesh was in
Vienna.
What? I was about to say Viennese then.
Yeah, I was in Vienna last week for a conference. So that's like the most amazing perk, I think, of being a PhD student is you get to travel so much.
Yeah.
I think depends on your supervisor and how much money you have and everything too. But there's always conferences out there that you can go to which are super relevant to your work. Maybe not even relevant, but like it's just good experience to network and talk to loads of researchers that are in your field. And I literally feel like whenever I talk to them, they're like celebrities or something because they've done such amazing work, and I literally read their like papers every day, and I'm like, I can't believe I've met them and talked to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just always feel starstruck whenever I go see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with PhDs, you have like a certain amount of money for grants and like going to conferences. So I have like £700-ish because I'm a dry lab person, so I don't need that much money to buy equipment.
So not like you're buying like acid and
like
cells every
things.
week.
So then I spent my money on conferences, and so I went to a few like there's some that we did in Queen Mary, and there's one I went to in Scotland called like PopGen, which is like
I know.
So that's like population genetics conference. I think it's been running for like 56 years or 57 years now. And I went to that, did a poster presentation there. And then I went last week to Vienna, which was so beautiful. And it was 27 degrees there.
Wow.
So nice. I was actually in a skirt there. I was like, it's like summer. It was so, so nice. And I came back here and it's like raining.
You see the weather, guys. This cloud has been hovering over us all day.
So when I was there, it was so nice. I had like some time, so my parents came as well because they were like, oh, I'll just go on holiday and I'll like go to the conference. And so, I went to the conference and it was all like probabilistic modeling in genomics. So lots of maths, stats, loads of those types of things with like biology intertwined in it.
Yeah.
It was quite a nice cozy conference because you can have ones that are quite big, like 200, 300 people come in. And then you're like, who do I talk to? This is like 60-ish people. So it was quite nice. You can like talk to anyone there and they won't say anything. You'd be like, oh, what do you do work on? And they're very, very friendly.
Yeah.
And I did a poster presentation there as well. And the people that I literally have referenced were all there. So they were all coming up to me like, oh, I kind of understand your idea. And I'm like, yeah, you're the person that I referenced in this paper.
Imagine if someone came up and was like, that's wrong.
Yeah,
you're like, how do you know? They're like, that's me. I wrote that.
I would get so scared. So I had to cry. I was literally preparing myself mentally. I was like, I need to make sure if this person comes up to me, what I'm going to say to them.
Yeah.
So it was a very good experience. I think everyone's so, so sweet. All the academics I met there were so, so sweet. And but going to conferences is amazing. Networking is absolutely amazing. You get to figure out what other people are doing, what they're like kind of interested in, and seeing like literally firsthand people making code like that you're actually going to use afterwards. And it's amazing. I absolutely love conferences and going abroad as well. Like if your university's paying for it, why not?
Yeah
That's
fun. That's why like obviously PhDs, but that's why like some people like go abroad for their PhD because like when else you're gonna get the chance to like go somewhere for like 4 years. Like I know that's a while, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, if you went to like Italy for 4 years, imagine.
Amazing.
Like, unpaid, you'd be like, oh, just boys in the sun.
Yeah.
Would you do any work? Probably not.
That was literally me in Vienna. I was like, I really don't want to do any work right now because it's so sunny and hot outside.
Yeah.
But I was like, I have to go there for what I like paid for as well. So but it's amazing. I know even after people do PhDs, like you can do a little like internships as well abroad. Maybe like if you're super interested in a certain topic, then you can like apply for internships and go for like 6 months or something. But I know after PhDs, people do postdocs. and you can do like 6-month postdoc in like somewhere else, or you can do like a 5-year one or something somewhere else. So research gives you so many opportunities to travel, which is so nice, and you can do it like literally at your own leisure. Like you have your own, like you have whenever time you want to do it, you can do it. It's not like you have to ask your company kind of, oh, I want to have this much time off, please like give me this much, and then you have a contract and all this. Supervisors are loving it when you're like networking with people and like trying to bring in new ideas and research. So yeah,
that's cool. Like especially because conferences like happen everywhere. Like so my mate, I won't say what company she works for, but they run science conferences. So I was saying she goes to San Diego, and then she goes to Switzerland, and then my brother does he does recruitment for life sciences, but he works in the American market, so he gets to go to like all the American conferences.
Wow!
And he always brings me back like swag bags, and they're like they're kind of like the most American things. Like we've got a lunch box that just fits pizza slices in it.
Oh really?
You know, like one of them.
That's quite cute.
Because it's like American, I don't know, that's what they brought over, but yeah, no.
And they must be quite big in America as well, right? The conferences.
Yeah. In America, it's like healthcare is not free. It's like a business, so it's huge. You know, whereas over here it's like NHS and whatever. So
yeah, it's quite cool though. I think we have like the most coolest thing I think I find is I see people that I've met last year again in the year again. So I went to a course in Denmark last summer, and the guy that I met there, I saw him at the PopGen conference in Scotland in January, and I saw him again in Vienna last week. This is crazy. Like he lives in Denmark, but I'm seeing him at these places because we do similar work. So you kind of build like your own little connection with people just because we have the same interests, and they're like completely like away from you so far, and you just see them like around conferences. It's very cool.
Do you feel like, did you go there thinking, mate, what if he's here again?
I did, because I was like, I went alone to the conference as well. I was like fully expecting not to know anyone. And then when I went there, I saw him, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's here. And it was literally the same kind of group of people from Denmark that I've always been seeing around. They're always literally just going to the same places I'm in now. So it's very cool.
Another question.
Yes.
This is a proper interview. This is serious.
I'm intimidated.
Okay, so I've just got one written here from the group. If you're wondering who I keep referring to as a group, MITO-SIS, we run MITO-SIS magazine. We're obviously interviewing the lovely Janeesh today, and it's obviously going to be written up. We're going to do like a nice article piece and put your like top tips and stuff. So I'll ask you that as well.
Okay.
But kind of just got written down here. So would you do anything differently on your journey to where you are now, or are you content? Basically, and you know, talking about your journey, what do you see at the end of it? You know, what do you want to do? Hard questions. That's kind of one that your family asks you when you meet them, and you're like, please don't ask me anything.
So, first of all, am I content? I don't think anyone will ever be content with what they're doing, but I think I'm very happy with what I am doing right now. I'm very lucky as well, I think, to get into a PhD program and even have an education and everything. Considering my family, like I'm the first person in my whole family to, I think, do a PhD, or like, I mean, my cousins have like undergrad degrees and like masters, but like I'm one of the first ones to continue doing more academic work. And I'm quite lucky in that sense. And my mum and dad didn't actually have an education as well, so I'm properly the first one and like the guinea pig of the family to do it. So I'm super content, I think, with where I am that. But in terms of doing anything differently, I think I wouldn't have wanted to do anything differently because, I mean, every process I've gone through has shaped who I am right now and kind of where I am right now. And I'm grateful for all of that. But at the same time, there are moments in my life where I said, why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I do this? And I think probably some of the stuff is like, oh, why didn't I say that certain thing? Like when I'm doing like research or stuff, like why didn't I stick up for my own work? Because I think there is points in your life where you're like, I'm just an undergrad. I don't really know what I'm doing. When I'm a master's student, I don't know what I'm doing. When now I'm a PhD student, I don't have like, you just feel like you don't have the authority to kind of say something.
And you feel like no matter how much studying you do, you
it's
feel like
enough.
you never experience enough. Just mind your hair on your microphone.
Oh no, sorry.
But I feel like you never feel like, as you say, you don't have a place. And I think it's just like, I remind myself, like when I started MITO-SIS magazine, like I feel like I wanted to do something like that for a while. And I was like, well, why not? I said, I'm literally like 21, like I'm an adult now. Like this is not, child's play anymore. Like I actually this is my life, this is my career. Like if I want to do something, like I actually should do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can't. Well, yeah, and it's one of the things that you think, oh no, but why would I do that? What's my place? I'm like, no, I've got a degree. I'm on another degree now. Like, I'm qualified.
Yeah.
I can talk about science topics because I've done science. I'm doing science. Like, maybe not
also,
everything, but like, ask me a question about embryology. I can talk to you about it. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I think people they underestimate how much they actually know about a specific subject or the super like a niche topic. Like you probably know something about embryology that nobody else in the world probably maybe even knows. Or like they do know. It's like a very handful amount of people know about it. So you do have authority in that sense, kind of. Like I know probably something that only like a very handful of people know about it. So yeah, I don't think we should diminish kind of like how much we know and what, but I think we get a lot of imposter syndrome, I think, especially in academia, being like, I don't think I'm really smart enough for people, because there are a lot of people, I think, in our area which are kind of put on a pedestal, I think, their whole life, and they're like put to this point where they're like always the best or something. Yeah. And it's hard, I think, as women in STEM as well, which is one of our topics.
It's obviously, but like imposter syndrome, I went to a conference thing and it was about women in tech Dorset, because I did my undergrad in Dorset, in Bournemouth, and women up there with so many years experience, they said they still have it because they'll go into a room or they'll go into a company and they're the only women in there. Yeah. And no matter whether they're the most experienced person in the room, they still feel like, oh my God,
small,
like, and it's just so crazy, like, that will never go away. Yeah. And so you kind of just have to like force it out of your mind and give yourself confidence, because otherwise you're doomed, basically.
Yeah. It is. I think it's one of the biggest challenges as women in academia is that even when I was at the conference, it was, I think, I want to say like 60% or 70% men, 30% women, which I was quite happy to see. I was like, there's loads of girls that are doing maths things with code and bits. And I think, my parents have always taught me like, oh, don't be afraid. Like I have 2 sisters, and I live with my grandma and mom as well. Yeah. And my dad's the only boy in the family. So we've always been like taught about girl power and like trying to make sure your voice is heard, like you doing whatever you want to do. And so I never tried to put myself in a place where I'm like, oh, there's a guy there, like you have to be intimidated by them. But there is also, I think, this aura about like kind of how they like say things, or the way they kind of try and bring their point across, which kind of can feel intimidating or maybe like aggressive towards females.
It's like it's like one of the things, like how am I, not everyone's my age, but how am I a 21-year-old like girl, just a girl, like how am I meant to tell you that no, I'm right, like, and this is what I've studied, this is correct, to like a 50-year-old man who's you know, do you know what I mean, like,
who has experience of like 50 years as well. I don't know.
What is my place?
Yeah, it always becomes like that. But at the same time, whenever I talk to Richard as well, like I was like to him before I went to Vienna, like I'm scared. Like I'm scared of going to the conference. Like I'm alone, first of all. And there's going to be people that are like huge academics that are like publishing papers in like every single article possible. And I've got no publications out there. I'm just going there by myself. I'm a PhD student, which has got like only barely any research experience so far. Like, how do I even go? He's like, why are you doing that? Why are you saying that to yourself? Like, you have to just go there and just talk to people and like network. Like, what's the worst that can happen? If they say something to you, you can be like, oh, I'm younger than you. Like, I don't really have any experience. It's fine. But at the same time, you can probably like, you might do something that will revolutionize science and you just don't know about it because maybe you're just scared, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's like a very fine kind of tipping point as to when you kind of hit that point where you're like, I don't care anymore. Like I want to say what I want to say. But at the same time, I think it's difficult as well. Of trying to be like confident in what you want to say, and not caring about what other people are thinking as well. Yeah, I don't know. I think women in general are more like comforting as well when it comes to saying different things, especially like when I was demonstrating as well. I had to be really careful with how I approached people and like made sure they felt like I wasn't trying to undermine them and like how much code they knew or like how they were like doing their work or the style of coding. And I had to like, because of course they won't code the same way I code or other people code as well. Yeah. So it becomes it's very good in terms of like I was able to adapt with different people. But at the same time, it's good. We have like very good, I think, womanly kind of like instincts, as in like you have that kind of more like
it's like empathy as well. You understand how the other person might feel, whereas I feel like
But we
don't
don't
cancel me. I'm not gonna. I was gonna say, whereas I feel like men just say what they want, but we need more of that. We need to just be okay. I'm just gonna say this. I don't care how you feel. You know.
Yeah, but I think we kind of put ourselves and our ideas back then because we're scared to say those things, but we shouldn't be scared. Of course, it comes with growth, and like when you go through academia, I think I've become way more confident than I was before. Like every single time I've done a degree now, I've become more and more confident at my work. And I'm thinking like, oh my god, I actually can put out work there that might be useful, and especially because we're doing kind of like very interdisciplinary work. Like it's not just biology; it's biology, coding, some maths, stats work as well.
Yeah.
We kind of like I've definitely felt like, oh, I don't belong in any of those categories because I do work in maths, but am I really doing work in maths? Like, or am I kind of just being an imposter in maths, Or like I'm like even with like my PhD now, it's more like evolutionary biology, but my background is biochemistry. I still feel like, am I really equipped to do this PhD? And it happens all the time, but at the same time, it's just I think it's so natural to think like that. And as women, we have to, keep on pushing ourselves forward as well. Because in the end, I feel like when we have academic roles as well, like later on, if you want to start your own lab or anything, it becomes more difficult, especially because women usually, if they want, they can have families during like their 30s, and that's when usually you want to start your academic career. So it becomes like, what do I want to do more, like family stuff or like academic stuff? So I don't know, it becomes difficult, but at the same time, personal preferences as well, isn't it? So, yeah.
So we went on a tangent, but like, where do you see yourself going?
Sorry. So, okay, again, I'm trying to go with the flow with everything. I don't want to like impose any ideas and be like, I want to do this and this in my future. But I think currently I want to stay in academia. I think I'm 70% sure I want to stay in academia. Other 30% like maybe industry. But I was like, I've worked so hard already and been in academia for so long, and I kind of am doing well, I think, with my work so far, that why not continue doing it and stay in that kind of mindset. And I know money is not as much, but at the same time, it seems like I want to have my own lab kind of, and I want to
Start saving now. I
want to have my own lab kind of, and like I would love to supervise people, teach as well. I like teaching, but I wouldn't want to teach in schools because you know how school kids are.
Oh my god, I feel like you just lose it.
I would
like, sit down, shut up, crack on with your work.
I couldn't do it. And even sixth form might be fine, but like at the same time, academia, I think in like teaching in university, you're paying for it as well. Like you kind of are a bit more serious. And I think it's just more interesting, like, you have to teach higher level kind of stuff. And you can see your like actual research being implemented and talked about with other students.
I feel like you're growing your brain a bit more as well. Like if you're teaching students, you have to find new papers, all that stuff. Whereas if you remember, not that we respect your teachers. That's not what I'm trying to go with this. I'm saying if you're currently working at a research level and then you went back to school and you're having to teach people like the structure of a cell and that was what you're doing all day, then I feel like your knowledge on the other stuff's going to kind of like fading away a bit. But
so that's why I think, because I love teaching when I was demonstrating with the masters as well, and I like
great teacher.
Thank you. But I was teaching in the masters and also undergrads as well, and they were really, really fun. Like I think I enjoyed like kind of the challenge of seeing other people's code and kind of seeing how they do it and how you could like, it's very difficult as well, I think, trying to see other people's code. Like I understand mine pretty well, it's commented nicely. Other people's, when I see it, I'm like, I have to really quickly adapt and try and understand it.
I don't comment my code. I only did when it came to assignments. So when like people looked at my thing, I was like,
the marking will get higher. But so I think that's like one of the driving factors of me staying in academia as well was that. And then do my own research. And I think my supervisor in general, he's made a lot of professors like out of academia. So he's like helped a lot of PhD students go into academic world. So he's quite well equipped for that. So I'm like, it's like a good path and I've got good links to do it. And also it's quite, I don't know, like if later on I want to move abroad as well, because you can like have this really cool aspects of you can do academia anywhere, different universities. So I don't know, I'm thinking after my PhD, first of all, I want to maybe do a postdoc abroad and even like live out for 6 months, a year and see how it is. And like rather than just staying in London my whole life. And kind of look at, because there's loads of good places in like Austria. So in Vienna, there was amazing, like the bio center is amazing. People there are like absolutely amazing and smart. In Denmark as well, the population genetics department is so cool. And even in Oxford as well over here, they have a very good department as well where they're making like simulation tools and things. So it's very much what I'm doing now. And yeah, so that, I've got that in my mind as well, going abroad to a different country and figuring out if I really want to stay in academia.
Yeah.
But then the end goal, I think, could be like, you know, becoming a lecturer, then professor, whatever comes up after that. But all that kind of stuff is quite cool. And also, it'd be quite nice to have professor in front of your name, right?
No, literally.
So, and it'd be quite cool as a girl, especially. And also, being Indian as well. I think it's very rare to find people that are like Indian and also in this field, and a woman as well. I haven't, like, when I was in the conference as well, it wasn't that many Indians there. And when I did find one, I was like, oh my God, there are other people that are also interested in the field that I'm in. So it was quite interesting to see that. So yeah, I feel like I've come so far now that I'm like, why not get the job fully done and like
keep going.
Really, and get it done. And if I'm really interested in it, why not? Like, there's nothing really stopping me other than money.
Yeah, and I guess with like your mindset, let's say you got to the end of this and you were interested in something else, you just do it.
Yeah, you can, because I think it's so cool that even after I do population genetics work right now, I still have that kind of coding, like we'll both have coding knowledge after our masters. You can go into anywhere you want. Like, you don't have to just go into academia. You can go into industry, and you can go into very different parts of industry. Like my friends, I think they're doing more work with, so one of them is in Charterhouse, doing stuff with, I think, like protein.
That's all like cancer stuff.
Some cancer work as well, medical more work, and he's earning great money and he's doing well and he's really happy as well there. And there's others doing PhDs and like health data practice, I think.
Yeah.
And drug discovery.
Well, they've opened a new PhD for that health data.
That's recently, I think. And I think there's so many different opportunities to go anywhere that you don't have to be scared that you're limited, even no matter what you've done. Like, I mean, I'm doing this PhD and I haven't really got a background in evolutionary biology. And so, yeah, that's I think the biggest tip is don't be scared to apply for anything. Like, you don't know what you'll get and where people will see your potential, because you might not see it yourself, but definitely there'll be somebody else out there that will be like, maybe that person's actually quite good for this job. Yeah.
When we were not recording, I was telling Janeesh that I applied for PhD in glaciology. I'm not qualified, but I was like, if they get back to me, then I'm off to Greenland. So yeah, you just got to go for it. I didn't get it, by the way. They wanted someone with a glaciology background, but most of the time you can kind of, if you're in that field, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, if they say we want someone with a biology background, if you've got that, then crack on.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing, is just don't be scared about applications. And I think even I applied for some I did like 3-ish PhD applications because I wasn't super serious about it at the same time, but I also wanted to kind of see what the process was like.
Yeah.
And if something came up that I was really interested, I would have like really gone for it. And so when I was applying there's one other one in Queen Mary, it was like translational biology or something.
Oh yeah, they've got like a thing for that.
It's like a 4-year.
I can't think who the team is, but there's
it's like an MRes and a PhD, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, why not apply for this, even though I have no experience at all in any of these things, and I might like it. And then I got rejected, of course, because I didn't. It was like completely unrelated to what I'm doing right now. So yeah, but again, apply, see what happens. Someone will find potential in you, and yeah.
So I feel like we'll finish this up. I'll maybe ask you any top tips. I know we've said like some tips along the way, but like, if you had to sum it up, what are top tips for people looking for PhDs, or like just wanting to getting into the science field, you know?
Yeah.
I know it's broad, but
so I think general, like the biggest top tip is like, just don't be scared at all. If you're in academia and you're a girl and you just don't think you're like worth it, or you don't feel like you're gonna progress at all, just apply for it and see what happens. Like, I think the worst case scenario is you'll be rejected and you'll never see the person again. It doesn't really matter. And no matter what happens, I think you'll find whatever you like and whatever you're going to enjoy out of it. And unless you have to struggle to find out what you actually do like. So you have to go through those moments. And so don't be scared. And generally about applications for PhDs, make sure you read articles and practice reading articles, becoming like really good at picking out certain points of like the paper, and like looking at like whatever you find really interesting. First of all, you focus on that, but also what else the interviews are looking for, like what is general technique used in the paper, what's the general findings, the conclusions, trying to kind of get an overall grasp of it. So when I was doing my PhD, my supervisors, when I was doing my interview, my supervisors provided me a paper, which was their paper.
Right.
So Richard Nichols gave me his paper that was joint with Bob Verity, who is my one of my other supervisors.
Yeah.
But he was his old PhD student at the time. So it's quite cute. It's like a whole circle that's going around now. But they gave me their joint paper, and it was the hardest thing I've ever read. Like when I was there, like it's middle of the masters, I had no proper idea about stats with like likelihood functions and all this, and I was like reading the paper, and I was so scared. I was like, why have they given me this? Like, why have they given me this? And then I read it, and I literally just focused on the graphs. I focused on the graphs, and I was like, what do I know? Like, what can I see? X and Y axis, what's happening with the shapes? And I kept just focusing on that. And whenever I found something super interesting, I would search it up. And I think that was the main kind of idea that even Richard liked as well. He liked looking at figures, trying to extract out information. And I think you'll know, another big tip about when you're trying to find a good academic to supervise you is you'll know what they like in your interview. So how they kind of like teach you and bring you along with the interview. And so he was so good at explaining and trying to make me extract out information from the paper itself, rather than it trying to be like, oh, why didn't you know this? Or like, why aren't you doing this correctly?
Yeah.
It was more like, oh, what do you think about this type of a plot? Like, oh, like what question do you have for us about it? And then I would ask a question. It'll become more of a conversation rather than like an interview then. And it was very nice and comfortable. So a huge tip is please find a good academic and a good supervisor, which is going to support you through your journey as well, because at the end you're with them for like 3 years, and you want a good one that gives you a good reference in the end as well. Yeah. And any more tips? That's it, I think, right now. Yeah.
Just go for it.
Go for it, yeah.
What's that classic quote? It's like, you miss 100% of the opportunities you don't go for.
Yeah,
and that's true. Literally true. If you don't go for it, you never know. So.
Yeah, and even if you honestly just don't know if you like the PhD or not, apply for it, and you'll get the experience of like doing the application process, doing the interviews, seeing what academics are out there, what like maybe academic like institutes you like as well. If you want to stay far away from London, you want to stay in London, you get like a little taster of everything. So apply.
Yeah. Okay, so that is it for today's video. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
How exciting. This will be uploaded soon. I need to do all the editing and everything like that. But that's been MITO-SIS episode 6, and I hope you guys have a good day.
Yeah.